You're very welcome, Minister. I'm delighted to have you here in the Shannon. Look, I'm fed up, as no doubt every other politician is, with the state of school transport in this country. It's an absolute outrage, to be honest with you, that the Department of Education has been sitting on a report since 2021 on school transport. And today I'm rising to specifically deal with one issue in Galway, which is around the Educate Together National School in Newcastle, and the fact that for years we've had a bus service from Moycullen, beyond Moycullen, and families in Roscahill as well, and it was just abandoned. Like a week into the service in September, just abandoned. 12th of September, there's been no bus coming in from Moycullen. So there's at least 20 families that are now on the road, in their cars when they don't need to be. All of those kids could be on one bus coming in and out. And in fact, I know one particular family, and they're coming in from Roscahill. And this mother has to take an hour annual leave every single day to bring her kids in and out, because she starts work at 8 in the morning to bring her kids into school, and then she has to pay €15 extra to a childminder every single day to get somebody to collect her kids and bring them home again to Roscahill. And Roscahill, and I don't know if you know the area, Minister, but it's a rural part of Galway, past Moycullen, so it's not really feasible to get somebody else to be collecting children and delivering them to and from. I mean, to be honest with you, it is obviously a real frustration for these families, but to me it's also a frustration because of the environmental impact that this is having. Completely unnecessary travel, and I'm the education spokesperson for the Green Party, as you know. I brought this up numerous times on the Education Committee, that I simply see no real initiative in the Department of Education when it comes to the environment. Delighted that we finally got the solar panels on school buildings over the line last week, but when it comes to school transport, it's a no-brainer. Like 30% of the traffic in Galway is actually kids being brought to school in a car when they could all be on buses, if we got that bit right. We'd love to see that the Department of Education would allow school transport to go into the Department of Transport so that it could be joined up, because there are buses that mightn't be, they're not going from a million miles away from where these school kids are going to and from. If it could all be joined up so that we had one transport system and everybody could use that one transport system, then we'd get away from these issues. Because I think the issue for this one, in particular in Moycullen and Roscahill, is the lack of a bus driver. Yeah. And the issue in lots of them, I know, is the lack of a bus driver. But it's a really inefficient way to do transport, the way that we do it in this country. And I don't think that it should take 2 years, actually over 2 years now, for the Department of Education to get to grips with what the problem is. You ask any politician and they'll tell you what the problem is. We're really at our wits' end. I'm also at my wits' end because there is no response from Bus Éireann. Never any response. So all of these parents individually are going to try and ask. I can't get the answers, and now I'm having to bring you in here, Minister, to answer for the Minister for Education. And no doubt every other politician is doing the exact same thing. Like a bit of communication, and also, where's the review at? And in particular, this bus service for Moycullen. You can't just give people the expectation for years that their kids are going to continue to be brought in a school bus and then just drop it in the middle of September.
Thank you, Senator Minister.
Thanks very much, Senator O'Reilly, and I can hear the frustration in your voice. And as a mother who always depended on school transport, it depends where you live. People in large towns and cities don't actually realise how important school transport is until your own children have to. And for 18 years I've been putting my youngsters on a school bus, and they wouldn't have secondary school only for that. So I understand where you're coming from. Before I address the specific issues raised in relation to the Galway Educate Together National School in Newcastle, I would like to provide an outline of the extent of the school transport scheme. The school transport scheme is a significant operation managed by Bus Éireann on behalf of the Department of Education. As part of the operation of the scheme, Bus Éireann manages the procurement tender process and contract management arrangements to include services provided by contractors under the school transport scheme. There are currently in the region of 7,000 vehicles operating on the scheme. The competitive procurement process is conducted in accordance with negotiation procedure under national and EU procurement legislation. In the 2022-2023 school year, over 149,000 children, including over 18,000 children with special educational needs, were transported on a daily basis to primary and post-primary schools throughout the country. In addition, school transport scheme services were provided for over 5,400 children who had arrived to Ireland from Ukraine. The total cost of the scheme in 2022 was €338 million. The school transport scheme is an important service for families, as I've said, and children. The purpose of the Department School Transport Scheme is having regard to available resources to support the transport to and from school of children who reside remote from their nearest school. There has been an overall increase in both applications and tickets issued for 23-24 school year in comparison to the previous year. Already over 134,000 tickets have been issued to mainstream pupils for the 23-24 school year, which is an increase of 12% when compared with the start of the last school year. The number of tickets issued so far has already exceeded the total number of tickets issued in the 22-23 school year. With regard to SEN transport services to date, over 5,500 new applications have been received for SEN transport for the 23-24 school year, with over 1,400 of these having been received since July alone. This compares to some 5,100 new applications received at this time last year. To date, transport has been provided for over 4,300 new applicants for the 23-24 school year, with transport being provided for over 19,000 pupils in the current school year. The Department continued to receive applications all year round. As the Deputy is aware, a review of the school transport scheme has been completed. The review was conducted with a view to examining the current scheme, its broader effectiveness and sustainability, and to ensure that it serves students and their families adequately. The Technical Working Group and the Steering Group have recently completed their work on the final report of the review. The final report includes recommendations on further operation of the scheme. The report has recently been submitted by the Steering Group for Minister Foley's consideration. In relation to the topic raised by you today, to be clear, Bus Éireann have confirmed that no services were cancelled. However, they have reported that this is currently an issue because there was no contractor driver, as you said, to operate the service in question. This is against the backdrop of significant shortages of drivers in the labour market overall and competing demands for drivers to deliver additional public transport initiatives such as Connecting Ireland and Bus Connect's local link services. Bus Éireann has confirmed that the route in question is currently in the procurement process, and once a suitable contractor driver is sourced, transport will commence. Bus Éireann continues to engage directly with families affected with regular communications, updating them on the position with their transport service. The Department has established an exceptional no-service interim grant to assist with the cost of private transport arrangement families may have to put in place until the service begins.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Rennie.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I mean, really, in your response, you've outlined numerous other problems with school transport, which just goes to show the absolute urgency with getting this report. So, you know, we're now in the middle almost of December. If we get to see sight of this before Christmas, we'll be lucky. So we're then talking over 2 years to get a report to tell us what basically we already know, which is school transport is a bit of a joke, to be honest, in this country. And people are given an allocation of a school bus and then nobody shows up to actually drive the bus. So, look, I'm frustrated, but I'm nowhere near as frustrated as the parents who are, as I say, having to take time off work every single day to bring their kids in. And I'm hearing that there isn't enough communication with these parents. So I appreciate what you're saying, that they're in regular communication. There's still no idea as to when this procurement process is going to be completed, when the school bus is likely to come. And so there's kind of two things going on here. Number one, what you've said is that it hasn't been cancelled, but then number two, what you're saying is there's a procurement process underway. Well, either the school bus is on or there's a procurement process. I don't think both can be happening at the same time. look, I appreciate that my time is up. You understand my frustration, and I appreciate that you're coming in here and answering questions on behalf of Minister Foley. But what we really need, all of us as politicians, is communication with us, timely responses to our questions from Bus Éireann, and then I wouldn't have to come in here and I wouldn't have to bring a minister in here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. And I can understand your frustration, but I do think it has to be acknowledged that 149,000 children travelled to school on a school bus last year, and that many of them also had additional, educational needs and were also accompanied on the bus. So it's a huge logistical operation. We're also in a situation at the moment where the country is at full employment, and there is issues, whether it's home care, whether it's bus drivers. We hear this a lot in the Dáil as well in relation to bus drivers and the fact that once they get to the age of 70, they can no longer drive unless they're driving for a private company. It's an issue that's been spoken about a lot. And there's lots of areas, whether it's construction or whether it's hospitality, where we are challenged. But the Minister wants to reiterate that no service has been cancelled. While the current situation with regard to lack of contractors and drivers is extremely regrettable, Bus Éireann are prioritising the establishment of new services for the small number of families affected. And also, just to mention again, the exceptional interim grant. But I will bring back your frustration to Minister Foley and her office, and the fact that, like having a parent having to take an hour's annual leave every day to drop her children to school is certainly not acceptable, and I will certainly